What were you asking about the song?
Yeah, isn't there a song called Wish You Were Here? Is that Pink Floyd or something like that?
There's two of them. There's Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. There's Wishin' You Were Here by Chicago.
Right, I knew that one. Nope, it was the Floyd. It was the Pink Floyd song I was thinking about. Because as we were talking about places that we wish we were, I kept hearing this song in my head. And I was like, I think it's Pink Floyd.
It is Pink Floyd.
Woo woo.
Look at you scoring points.
My own music trivia.
They went out and asked a whole bunch of people if they wanted to be somewhere else rather than where they are. People just cannot be satisfied with where they are in life. And it turns out that the average person spends 40 minutes a day wishing they were somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of time.
Now, I have questions about this. So does this mean it's just in that moment? Like if you're waiting in line at the post office, I guess nobody does that anymore. Waiting in line at the DMV, waiting in line.
Traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're waiting, if you asked at that moment, do you want to be somewhere else? It could be as simple as, yes, I want to be home. But if it's a bigger picture thing, like you want to be somewhere else rather than where you are in life, now we're starting to get pretty heavy.
I was going to say, I think that because the number one answer was what? The beach?
The
Am I
beach,
right?
yeah, which is your choice.
That would be my choice. I love Colorado. I love the mountains and, I love lakes and all of that, but I don't like being cold. So as pretty as the mountains are, when the snow hits them, I'm not up there. I don't ski. I don't do winter sports. So for me, if I had to say, wow, where would I like to be right now? It's in shorts and a t-shirt walking on the beach by far.
What are you doing in Colorado?
I love Colorado. I love the no humidity. I love the mountains. I love it when I can get up to the mountains. And I love the mountains in the summer. That's what I will say. There's nowhere better in Colorado than going to the mountains in the summer.
You know what? You were about to start transitioning into being a snowbird, aren't you?
I'm telling you, I could do it so easily. It's just, it's not time for me to do it yet. But I understand now, the older I get, why older people did do that. My grandparents who lived in Indiana took off every winter and went to Florida. Like, I get it now.
There's an interesting book that came out a few years ago, and they talked about how something as simple as the invention of air conditioning in the early part of the 20th century changed so much in the world. It changed the political landscape. And you start thinking, how could that be? And it's because places like Phoenix and some of the other hotter places in the country,
right,
where people were like, I'm not going to live there, I'm going to melt. Suddenly there's air conditioning. And so people started moving there, and it adjusted the political map, if you will, all because of AC. I know that's a weird tangent to go off on. But
it makes sense. If people were able to live where they wanted to live year round, because nobody says, oh, I want to live in Arizona in the summer.
Right.
But if you could live there and you got to be there in the winter and summer was just the months you just hung in there. Like for me, that's how winter is in Colorado. I just hang in there because I know spring and summer are coming.
Yeah. All right.
That's how I feel.
Then let's look at the bigger picture, because that's what's interesting to me. I mean, the other things on the list, let me dig up the list. The beach, in the mountains, on an island, camping.
No, you and I are both non-campers.
We're not campers. And I know a ton of people watching this are big into camping.
Yep.
Good on you, as they say.
Good for you.
Theme parks.
No.
Somewhere that involves really good food. All right, that's fine too. But then there's the bigger picture, and to me, that's always the more interesting in these conversations. It's do you want to be somewhere else because you're so unhappy with where your life is today?
What is that meme where it says, build a life so that you don't need a vacation from it? And I have seen this, and I used to see this energy healer, and she would have that on her board all the time. And I thought it was interesting because I think the vacation is just getting away from the norm. So I understand what she's saying. But at the same time, I think no matter what you do, where you go, I have friends that live in Mexico full time, they still go on vacation. They just go to the opposite of what they have. So it's not that, hey, I want to go to the beach. They live on the beach, but
Right.
they still go other places to get out of the norm, to get out of the routine. And I think that's what the whole vacation thing is about.
I got to tell you a ridiculous story about that.
Okay.
So for years, my sister and her husband would tell me about how they were going away to their vacation cabin for the weekend.
Right.
And
Great.
great. I remember when they bought it and they said, yeah, we bought a cabin. We go there for long weekends. We do such and such. And I kid you not, Melissa, this was 4 or 5 years and I'd never seen it. I'd never been to their cabin. But I was talking to my sister one Monday or something, and she said, yeah, on Friday we went to the cabin, but I forgot something, so I had to come back home and get it. And I said, you went all the way back home just to get something you forgot? She goes, it's just a few minutes. I said, what? Where's your cabin? She goes, it's like about 5 minutes away. They bought a vacation cabin that they could practically see from the front steps of their house. It was 5 minutes away, and that was their vacation home. Now, I want you to let that sink in for just a minute. Who buys a vacation home 5 minutes from their home? The answer is my sister, and they loved it.
I don't.
Yes, you're perplexed. I was too. I think I didn't even say anything, and I hung up the phone and I called her back after I'd had time to process. And I called her back just to say, what the hell? You bought a cabin 5 minutes from your house? She goes, yeah, what's the big deal? That's like the people that you're talking about who live on the beach if they just bought another beach property somewhere.
Well, if they bought another beach property, but these people usually do the opposite. They fly to like Vancouver and go skiing, or Colorado. They come up here and go to the mountains. So they do the opposite of what they have. But it's interesting that your sister, for some reason, she can relax probably better in the house 5 minutes away and feel like she's something about that house signifies less stress at the cabin, got away from it all, even though it's almost around the corner, right?
Right. So, and it was a cabin. So it was a different lifestyle. And maybe I'm the weirdo and we have put too much stock in the distance that it should be from your normal home, when instead, in my sister's way of thinking, it was just getting away from her routine.
Yep.
And so even if it was 5 minutes away, it was shaking up her daily routine. And on that note, I have to say it's brilliant, because they could forget something. Like if you go to your place on the beach in Mexico, if you forget something, you're screwed.
Right. You forgot it. You're not getting it. You can maybe replace it with something.
Right.
But you can't run home and get it.
Right. So in a way, what they did was brilliant, because they could always just access. But at the same time, it was a complete mind shift for them. And that's really what it should all be about anyway.
I was going to say, I think that's what it is. When people say, if I could be somewhere else right now, I would. And I think it's that wanting to get away from the everyday monotony, the stress, the things that when you walk into your house, you feel like, oh God, I've got to pay bills. I've got pets. I've got this and that. And maybe when you walk into a cabin 5 minutes away, you don't think about that stuff. I don't know. I think it'd be hard for me. I need a little physical distance.
Yeah.
And I know me. Because that other saying, distance gives perspective.
Yeah.
Whether it's time or physical distance. And those are both things that I know I personally need. I feel better in Mexico because I'm not going to turn on our radio station and hear it and think, and start thinking about work.
Right.
So for me, I do need the distance.
And I think for other people, it could be as simple as meditation. And what that does is it takes them away and they are in a different place. So not one size fits all, is it?
No, but I do think it's interesting that whether it's 5 minutes away or whether it's 3 hours away, our need to escape our reality, our need to unplug is what I think is really telling, because I think about my great grandparents' generation and they worked a dairy farm in Indiana. I doubt they ever went on vacation.
Right.
That just wasn't the mindset then. You just worked. And when did we start needing, with all the technology and all the things we have going on, that we need these breaks more than ever?
Well, when you come right down to it, all you really need, get away, forget everything, is just a good shot of bourbon. That'll wrap it up for today's edition of After Hours. Thanks for hanging out with us. And anything you want to add to the end of this?
No, I think bourbon sums it up.